What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Here on M Cubed, of course, I'm Schmook. I'm here with one of my best buds on this planet, Bradley. Say hey to the folks.
What's up, everybody? Glad to be back for the Raimi reviews here.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. And if you're joining to watch the stream, make sure to say some shit in the chat because
Where's our boy? Where's our boy Sci-Fi?
Yeah, Sci-Fi. I'm sure you'll be here. My mistake. I usually write a little thing on the community notes to let us know that we're streaming, but that went past my mind at one point today. Busy morning. I usually do that in the morning, but let's hope we have enough people in here. But I'm not too worried. Anyway, so like last week, we didn't have the show on Monday because we went yesterday to go see the ultimate, the amazing,
the spectacular
Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2. And Brad was with me this time, which is nice because it'll help bouncing stuff off each other.
I'm a lame-o. I have yet to get the Alamo Drafthouse. Shout out to, I feel like there's always a huge discussion about like a theater going experience, but I mean, I felt like Trump there with all the hand movements. Love the Alamo Drafthouse, but they really are like, it's got to be the gold standard of movie theaters.
I'm with you because
like, dude, every experience we have there, like it is. I mean, not an advertisement, obviously, but like I don't know. I don't know how anyone else could go to any other theater.
And I'm with you. I love the Alamo Drafthouse. One, it's very close to where I currently live. And it's just
you are so lucky, dude. I have to drive half an hour.
I know. So it's like I'm close to there. I buy the season tickets, $20 a month. Alamo should sponsor us because come on.
They should.
We're giving you free shit right now.
Bro, one thing that would actually be really cool, just not to do almost a behind the scenes conversation on air, but it'd be interesting to see if they would let us live stream like from that lobby area, like with the stage.
Potentially.
That would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Of like, hey, we're actually like, in terms of the vibe of like we're at the cinema, like
well, we can maybe do that after we see Kingdom.
That would be sick.
Well, solely because we can just do at least an out of theater reaction or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
totally. And I saw Mark comment. But yeah, the Alamo. So I didn't even know this, but I thought it was only Texas based because when I was, I'm talking like the first time I went there was like 2017 or 18.
Sure.
I was blown away. I had never been to something like that. But yeah, they're around the country now at this point.
Right. Because the one we go to is fairly new.
Yeah, it's like I want to say like when I first moved back, they were like, yeah, it just opened. Just opened. And I was like, this is a miracle. No way.
Yeah, definitely less than 2 years, I'd say it's been around, but I love it. It's a no mark, not in Kansas City. I'm sure they have one, but yeah, we're located in the Lou.
Yeah. Honestly, I would imagine that KC probably does have one.
I'm sure they do. But yeah, Almo's great. They do the receiving the order really well. They're pretty good about it by like, they hand you the thing, but you don't have to worry about it until the movie's over. They take your card at the beginning of the film, so you don't have to go.
That's so good.
Because that whole process of like, if they give you the check towards the climax of the movie and they want me to give them a card is ridiculous.
Bro, that happened during me and my uncle seeing Last Jedi.
I was with you,
dude. Yeah, dude, that was.
So yeah,
that was painful.
Oh, so Mark, you're saying the one in KC closed due to COVID, most likely? Okay, fair enough.
That's fucked up.
Oh yeah, no, but the Alamos was great. Again, like they handle everything very well, and then of course they're great about like the no talking, not using your phone.
Bro, it's the environment that creates, and like that, I was gonna use that as a segue into just like being part of like, especially for this with the nostalgia. I'm pretty sure everyone there was a fan when these movies came out. Like I guarantee it. And it was, bro, just getting like the laughs. That was the big thing that I felt like, bro, this is such a fun experience. Like the fans like loving the comedic vibe that Raimi brings to it.
Right. Again, it's the only showing they were having. So of course the real fans are going to order it ahead of time.
Yes.
So,
Yeah,
like,
we got it like a month ahead.
right. So you get the people that are wanting to see Spider-Man 2,
Yeah.
and that goes with it's one of their favorite movies most likely. So of course
Yes.
they're gonna laugh, they're gonna clap. Like at the end when it was over, we got a round of applause, and it was
Yeah, that was sick.
yeah, and I haven't had that in a movie theater in a while.
No, and just like even the opening, like I mean, if you want to get started, like we can kind of just go into a kind of like a plot breakdown, but the audience thing really really jumped me into the film, like in that true kind of losing myself in the experience type of mood. And I was really impressed by just the opening sequence that Raimi, like it's so smart where we get this opening action sequence, we get this action sequence, like the thrilling opening, but he does it with the juxtaposition of Peter's normal life. Like you'd think it would be in that, like where we come back, it's the sequel film of a hero or some kind of like again, the action adventure genre, you usually start off with like that. We either have the hero, like, and then we get there, the what's like the status quo now of our hero, or you get the prologue almost type of scene and you introduce the villain. But this does neither. And it's like, no, we're setting the status quo of Peter Parker, not of Spider-Man. Like it's the Peter, because it again, like you have the same vibe of like these almost like action type of cuts, but it's just him like just delivering the pizza. Like it's brilliant.
Yeah, but I mean, of course, you get Spider-Man within that whole sequence, but
right. But like it just that thought really struck me when it starts going. Is that? But even then, it's like not like Spidey. No, he's not chasing anyone. It's just the pizza delivery.
Yeah, no, yeah. All he does is like he stops for a minute to save a couple kids. That's really it.
And he just does like a it's just like, oh shit, I saw someone peripheral, these kids standing in the street, and he's still like and then that leads to, of course, him being late is like that extra like minute or so that he took to actually help someone. It like cost him the job.
Well, here's what we I guess I'd say we glossed over a little bit before we get to that part, but just the movie starts and you get that beautiful montage, the opening credits, you get Danny Elfman's score playing, and you get the Alex Ross paintings like showing scenes from the first movie, just get everyone a little bit like up to date on what happened in the first movie before you see this one, and just have Alex Ross paint that so beautifully for us.
Dude. And to where it even starts to feel like comic book panels. That's what I was thinking in there. I was like, damn, like they're getting even closer. It's so dope. It's so well done. And I remember I saw that one detail because I actually remember watching a video that Alex Ross made just talking about the Raimi film stuff specifically. And he even talked about where he's like, I didn't like the design of the eyes, so I just made it the original eyes. Like, so if you notice, it has like the it has the raised webbing, but it's the normal, like almost curved, like comic book black outline eyes. It's not the triangles.
Right. And that was a good detail because I never noticed that before.
Yeah, I was like, damn, he's so right. Like he really did just totally not follow along.
Right. But yeah, I mean, now we're just like getting a glimpse into the life of Peter Parker. Like he's in college, so he has a job delivering pizza, and then of course he's late because he had like Spider-Man's the job that doesn't take a break.
Yeah.
Is he really just gonna make it on time to deliver these pizzas, or have these two kids get killed? So that's always the fun element. Like Peter's just like, I desperately need this job because he clearly does. He's out on his own. And then Mr. Aziz rips off the Joe's Pizza logo off his helmet, and it's just like, all right, damn. So that's basically one thing going wrong for Peter. And then he's like, all right, well, shit, I just lost my job. Now he has to go to the Bugle, try to sell some photos, and they're just like, well, that's shit. This is shit. Like, give me what I want. And he's like,
yeah, right. Jameson's totally up his ass, and I think it's hilarious where he's like, Raimi does like the commentary on like, he has like a really good portfolio of like really good, just like slice of life, like city shots that would be in some kind of magazine or a website. He's like, I'm not paying you to be some kind of artist, Parker. And I'm just like, dude, that's so It's so
Oh,
good.
he's brilliant in that scene. Just
It's
the
the
first time
classic
we're
like
seeing.
editor, producer, like I don't care about some kind of artistic statement. I just want what people will look at. And it's like, dude, come on, Jay.
Every line of dialogue from Jay Jonah is just excellent. Like within this scene, it's so good. Like he just going
The rhythm, like it's such this boom,
it's
boom,
quick.
boom, boom, boom.
It's every bit of it. He's just all on the mark every time because like then Betty just like calls him like, your wife's calling to say she lost a checkbook. And he's like, thanks for the good news.
Thanks for the good news.
It's perfect.
He doesn't break it at all. Like the sarcasm, like everything is dialed all the way up.
Truly the most perfect casting of all time, I would say. One
of the sleeper, like someone put it together of I know who can play Jonah. And it's like he came out of the comic.
Yes. It's
wonderful.
Anyway, so he gets his check for this photo that he makes, or he takes of Spider-Man himself, and he just goes, "This is crap. I'll give you $150 for it." And Peter, he's getting a little confidence in his work. He's like, "I'll take $300." He's like, and I just love Jay Jonah just going, "That's outrageous. Done." And then and then he just. But again, this goes on to like this crap day that Peter's having. He loses his job. He takes the check to Betty to get paid, and she's like, "Yeah, this won't cover for the advance that I gave you." And he's just like, "Fuck." So one, he loses his job. He's not getting paid for his photos. And then he tries to make his way to class after this.
Yeah.
Where he's just bumping into everyone left and right. He's clearly exhausted. And then he runs into his professor.
Dr. Connors.
Of course, Dr. Connors. And Peter's just like, I'm on my way to your class. He's like, I'm not in class. I'm clearly standing in front of you outside on the quad.
Yeah, bro, it's over. I'm walking back from it.
Right. And Peter's just like, damn it, man. Like, if only I could be there. Like, I want to be there. And Connor's is just like, well, then be here, dog. Be here. But, Peter's like, I got a lot on my plate, homie.
Yeah.
I can't afford rent. And I just got fired. And I'm missing class, and I don't want to. I clearly want to better myself through education, but I can't be here. And then, of course, he has Spider-Man on top of all of this, because obviously in between each of these moments, he's clearly stopping someone from doing something or saving someone's life. Of course, adding to his exhaustion.
Right. The physical, not only mental.
So, one, he's not able to make class, so he's like, all right, fine. I told Aunt May I'd come over for dinner, so that's what I'm going to do. He gets there, and then surprise.
Oh, yeah.
Surprise, he's like, what's up? And then his best friend and the girl he loves is there also with Aunt May. And they're like, well, happy birthday. And he's like, oh. And he clearly doesn't know it's his birthday.
Didn't even realize.
Did not realize. And I'm like, shit, all this happened on your birthday, dog. Like, this is just, like, clearly one of the worst days of his life, most likely. And then it's like, oh, shit, it's my birthday.
Yeah, and then it's just like it just keeps getting like more fucked because you have like then Harry's acting all like an asshole because of the Spider-Man shit.
Right, and he wants to be there for his best friend, but the moment this shit comes up, he's like, yeah, you'd rather get paid than help me find the person that killed my father.
Yeah.
And it's like Harry has a valid point. Like,
well, yeah, from his perspective, yeah.
Yeah, Harry's not unjust of what he's saying, but it's just like Peter's him. And he can't tell his best friend this.
No. And yet, yeah, I don't know. It's strange because, like, the secret identity thing is always interesting to me. Like, for Peter, I mean, it's important, but at the same time, like, especially in this movie, maybe because, like, with the movie thing, it always feels different. Like, because in the comics, it's like, like there's a more consistent, like, time simulating going on. If that makes any sense of, like, all of the stories that are told in different books are, like, often overlapping, or, they take place, like, they say this one took place before this story, but it's all still the same timeline. So you get the sense that, like more so in the comics, that it's a very, like, living, breathing world. So that the villains are out there and everything.
Right.
And I feel like in that scenario, obviously, I think Peter's a little more justified in the secret identity. But I feel like in this movie, it just kept me thinking, like, I feel like I feel like so much of the or many moments in the plot would be like a lot easier if he just was just telling if he just told a couple of people that he was Spider-Man. It like I don't know. Because when he's talking about like my enemies, like they could come after you and all this stuff, and it's like, well, you have one villain per movie. It's not like you have all of these enemies. Like it just sometimes it felt a little strange. Where I was like, bro, if you just said it, your life would be a lot easier. Actually, it wouldn't be worse.
Right. No, and I get that. I mean, of course, it gets to that point though with clearly different franchise, but like Amazing Spider-Man, even where it's the same concept, there's always going to be someone else, someone bigger and badder.
Yeah.
And if they know who you are, they'll come after your heart, which is obviously what Norman talks about in the first movie. We go after his heart. So, I mean, and of course we see that because, I mean, Peter's still living this identity, the secret identity. And then, of course, Otto comes up. So there's always going to be a bigger fish. So I think I understand the idea of like hiding this from the people you love. But regardless, if the person you're fighting finds out who you are, they're going to find the people you love one way or another. Norman did.
Right.
So, I mean, you might as well tell the people you love who you are.
Yeah, I just felt like, I don't know. I mean, even with the Mary Jane part, because I think that was one where it was like, on certain scenario, like, okay, so like after the first time that he, after the first time that, like he doesn't get to the play because he has the whole, the shootout with the chase, and then he loses the webbing, and like I feel like with that one especially, with the fact that his bike literally was destroyed, I feel like that was a part of the plot that I wasn't, it took out a little bit of the believability because it's like, literally, why didn't you say I was in a car accident and almost died? And like that would have fixed this whole like what I felt was a little bit of a forced will they won't they type of thing. Where like a few of the scenarios like that doesn't work for me. Like if I was reading that script originally, I was like, okay, quite literally on the phone, why didn't he say I was in a car accident? Like that doesn't make any sense.
I'm with you.
There was a few moments throughout the script. I mean, I mentioned, well, we'll get there with the whole like speech / conversation that he has with Aunt May, but that's just the thing. It felt more like a speech than like two real characters like talking.
I mean,
it was like a little bit of the contrived, like, I have to give you your motivation now, Peter. And then it's like in this scene, it's like, well, we have to have this little conflict between Peter and MJ, so we have like this love triangle or like romance back and forth. And I'm like you just be smarter. Like obviously any intelligent person would go, yeah, my car got ran over. Sorry, I couldn't make it. And it just, you know what I'm saying? Like I felt the conflict. That's the right word. Like the conflict between them at moments was a little contrived. And I think it was like, again, that could stem back to a little bit like they're trying to keep this like, oh, I can't tell anyone, I can't let them know. Where again, I feel like it, but maybe this is just part of the intrigue is that like, we want them to do things, but it's just the flaw of the character themselves. It's not like it's a logic flaw in the script. So I get that you could argue that point as well, but I don't know. I don't mean to ramble, but I felt like there were, because I know everyone loves this movie and everyone, as do I, as you can see right there. And it is the best Spider-Man movie and all of that. But I'm like, look, I have to be objective. And like, I felt like, especially on this rewatch, some of those moments didn't work quite as well for me.
Fair. No, I'm with you there. But I will say, I think it kind of stems back to that Dr. Connors conversation. It's like, if you want to be here, be here. Where it's like, yeah, he was in a car crash, but this play's clearly been out for a little while as well. So it's like he's had multiple opportunities.
Right.
So it's like, if you want to be there, you're there. Especially if this is the one you claim to care about most in your life.
Right.
Then like from her perspective, she's just like, well, dude, like, do you even give a damn? Like, what are you doing? That keeps you so busy from just spending 2 hours to watch me sit like in a play.
Yeah. And again, that's where my mind just comes back to like, dude, just be like, look, that time it really was an accident. Like I was in a serious accident. My bike was destroyed. But yeah, I don't know. That is a good point though. Like it still makes sense, but I was just like, if I was writing it, it was like if I was writing it, I would have to. I don't know. You get the conflict coming in different areas, perhaps.
Right. But now we're getting to the point in the movie where everything's just it's all getting into Peter's head, right? Where it's like, one, the girl you love most tells you that she's seeing someone. You can't make her play. Your bike's ruined now. And the woman who took care of you can't afford her mortgage, which is another factor. Unreal scene that we kind of glanced over.
Oh, dude, I was tearing up.
She's just like, here's happy birthday. Hands him a 20. He's just like, I can't take this from you. Like, I've seen the papers.
Yeah.
And then her just breaking down. It's like, it's not much, but you need this. All right. Like, you are a young man living in the city. Take this money from me. I'll figure it out.
Yeah. I live in the suburbs. I'm old at this point.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it really, I don't know. It really hit me. Like, just in terms of, I don't know, it reminded me of like my own family, like my own grandparents who were always just so great. And, you know, again, it didn't even matter. Like, even if I didn't do anything, you know, the classic, like grandma being like, you know, don't tell your mom, here's a little bit of money. And it's like, dude, yeah, that's just, it resonated with me. It really hit me.
Right. Well, and it just hits hard, like the fact that the breadwinner of the house was killed recently, so she can't pay her mortgage.
Yeah, yeah.
And like Peter, of course, is like, this is the woman who raised me, and I'm barely around to be like with her anymore.
Yeah,
I don't know what's really going on in her life and her psyche, and like he just can't simply accept this money from her, and it's a beautiful scene. I love it so much.
I mean, now that I've been, I mean, not literally in terms of living in like New York City, but still like being in that feeling of like living away from home, like living in your own house and just like, you know, work is shit. It's something you don't want to do. You barely have any fucking money at all. Like that really resonated with me upon watching it this time.
Oh, yeah.
Especially after having, you know, moved back home and everything. Because I was like, bro, that was another thing of like the whole time I'm like, Pete, like, I mean, even if you got to make an extra long commute, you are Spider-Man, so you could just swing into the city. Like, just live with Aunt May, dude. Like, don't waste all your money on rent for a piece of shit like shoebox, and like save that money. You can help May with that money. Like the whole time, you're like,
It's true, but
it's so frustrating.
But he needs to be on his own because he needs to be able to leave like that in the middle of the city in case
right.
Going on.
No, exactly, and that's the thing where he can't let go of the responsibility he feels.
Exactly, he is burdened by his responsibility.
Yes,
carrying all that weight on his shoulders, and it shows throughout like the good half of this movie, if not more. But yeah, and then we get to this. I think it's a great sequence. Like definitely one I love when he's still Spider-Man, but he's going through like obviously like he can't spin webs as well as he used to. So it's all becoming very like all in his psyche, right?
Yeah.
But now here's going to be the cherry on top to all of this. After these past few days he's been having, his birthday being dog shit, and then you know obviously the next day missing MJ's play. Now he's going to this gala or whatever for JJ's son, who's an astronaut.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's like, all right, I need a photographer. Come here. I'll pay you. So he goes there, and of course, left and right, he's trying to get like an appetizer or a drink, and like someone's always taking it before him. So it's like just the kind of constant blow to Peter that's been happening this entire movie. And then you get the Harry, who's drunk as shit.
Yeah.
Confronting him. He's like, dude, like you won't help me find this dude just because he's basically paying your rent, and he's just pissed. And then he smacks Peter like I think he smacks him like twice or whatever.
Yeah, he hits him twice.
And he's like, dude, you're not my brother. like you don't give a shit about me, clearly, because you don't care enough to help me find this dude.
Yeah.
Especially since he's at least somewhat within your grasp.
Right.
But anyway, but I love that scene because just Harry just letting it all out. It's where you clearly see this connection falling apart that they've had for years. And it's a sad thing to see when you and your brother are just going through that.
Yeah, and especially, and that's the one of like, how do you, from Peter's perspective, man, like how do you possibly have that conversation?
Exactly.
Because no matter what you say about the reality of Norman, it's like no matter what you say, you have to start it with, look, I am Spider-Man, dude. And then he goes ballistic right away. So how do you even get to the rest of it?
Right. Like that's all that's how he has to start it, but how does he finish that conversation after saying that?
Yeah, I mean, the only way I could think of, like, okay, look, it started with you, Harry, okay? Because I was bitten by a spider at your dad's laboratory. Like, you could, I mean, that's the maybe to be like, look, this all has a meaning.
Sure.
It all comes back to Norman.
But anyway, so this all happens. He gets slapped in the face. The whole crowd's watching. It gets quiet, which I think is awesome.
That's in any type of movie. That always gets me, is like the quiet where you're like, ugh.
Like, this is happening. You know,
now it's super awkward, and you're trying to have, like, you're going through something, and then you start just, you know, the awareness of all the people looking at you and the quiet. It's just, I cannot imagine that, dude.
And then shortly after, he hears, oh, the beautiful Miss Mary Jane Watson has agreed to marry me. So within a finite, like a very small amount of time, he is losing his best friend, and the woman he loves has just got engaged. And the cherry on top of that, he has to take that fucking photo of them together.
Oh, dude, yeah, that was so fucking awful. Like, especially, again, for myself, like, having done, like, you know, doing photos for like events, doing videos for like events, I was just like, dude, imagine that woman. Everyone has like that woman, and you're like, now imagine you're forced to take her pictures, like, engaged to the son of your asshole boss. That makes it even worse.
Oh yeah,
because it's not like once she's married, you know, you'll never like see her. She'll be with this other. It's the like you'll see her. It's so bad. It's so bad.
And so after that, I mean, Peter's clearly just like swinging around the city, just trying to clear his mind or thinking about everything that's been happening recently. And while that happens, he can't spin a web, and he just falls at a great height. And so he's like, "Fuck this! I'm done.
I'm done.
I can't even do it. Like, I physically can't do it. So it's like, why am I gonna keep going through like these emotions?" Of course, I think we are definitely skipping some parts to get to this point in the story, because of course he still has. We have the whole
birth of Otto.
The first meeting of Otto, which is a great moment. Just Peter sitting for dinner with his wife and Otto.
And that was one where I remember us talking about the reactions. I wish that scene was longer.
I agree. It's great. It's great dialogue. It's just like Otto.
It's too simple though. Like it felt too. It's a little. It was good dialogue, but without more meat to it. It felt just, again, like kind of with the Aunt May moment later. It felt a little too like fake, like contrived, where it's like, oh, the couple, they of course have to mention the little how they met thing, and like, oh, and the poet or the science guy doesn't understand poetry. That's the hardest thing. And I'm like, I don't know. I get it, but I was also like, it's a little too one note. Like, I want more of like specific dialogue, like that lets you know a little bit more about who they are.
Right.
I don't know.
But of course, we have the birth of Dr. Octopus.
Yes.
and which is a great moment because, of course, that you're seeing this monster come to life, all because he couldn't. He handled he just miscalculated. Simply,
Yeah.
the science experiment, right? And he loses his wife because of it. He's losing all the funding from Oscorp, clearly.
Yep.
And then, of course, now he has Spider-Man on his tail. But going from that to to me, the true birth, where like the thing on the back of his neck is destroyed, and he's just asleep when these doctors are trying to get off these claws, and then they just go to town on all these doctors.
Dude, what a scene!
Oh yeah, powerful, man. Like seeing that in the theater again, I was like, shit.
That is got to be one of the that's got to be one of the most menacing villain. Not quite an intro scene because you see him introduced technically already, like you said. But you're right, that's the real birth of this new entity.
Right, and I always love. I really like the scenes of just him with himself afterwards, where he's just talking to the claws.
Dude, yeah, I love that. Those became some of my favorite scenes.
Yeah,
well, because it's weird to think about, but it is and I maybe because AI has gotten more of now, it's a actual real concept.
sure.
But it was this time really hit me of and again, I think it's because we understand more so of what an AI is and how it functions. It's bro, that became very sinister to me, of the fact that he has this AI that, I mean, essentially he develops schizophrenia.
Yeah, because he just has this other voice in his head telling him to do these bad things. This is a good guy, an intelligent guy with a good heart. But this new voice within his head be like, "Oh, I can make this again," because that still works off of how he feels. He's like, "I was close."
Yeah, it's it's like his pride and ego, kind of melded into this AI thing.
Exactly, but then it gets to the point it's like, I don't have any money, and then it's like, oh, I can steal it, but those are the claws talking.
Yeah,
not a criminal.
Yeah, yeah.
So I always love that, and then of course we get to this bank scene where it's like, love the bank scene.
Dude, with Joel McHale as the teller.
It's great. And he's just a complete dirtbag.
Dude, I totally forgot he was in that. I was like, holy shit. This
great.
Is young too. This is before Community. He's young.
Definitely. But declines Aunt May of and then she's like, oh, I can get this free toaster. He's like, no, actually, you need a $300 deposit in our new account. So yeah, it's
which is so fucked up because the obvious joke is so I'm buying a $300 toaster.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's so absurd, but it's a classic banker move.
And of course, Otto then comes in and wreaks havoc. But I do like the idea of how Peter just runs away, and then
that was crazy.
And then the bank teller be like, "Oh, your nephew's some hero," and shit like that, And it's like Aunt May's like, "Just don't leave me." I'm like, Peter, you could just walk her out, or and then you can go change instead of just immediately jumping to the gun of becoming Spider-Man.
Well, and now that you say that, actually, that's actually a very interesting. Again, I don't want to be pointing out flaws in the movie, but that's a point of that's straight up never addressed.
Right, but I will say I don't see it as. I mean, I get it when Aunt May doesn't know he's Spider-Man, so it should be addressed. She's like, "Why'd you leave?" Shit like that, a scene like that. But he leaves, and where was I going with that? Just that, based on what's on his plate, I would say maybe he's not even thinking about it. It's just now Spider-Man's just become him. He's not he clearly cares about Aunt May, but being Spider-Man is now his whole persona, where it's he's ruining every single relationship he has because of it.
Yeah, but again, that could have been another again, that's another like scene opportunity
Sure.
to bring about more like tension and conflict. And I'm like, that it just seems too like that's too big to write off
Right.
or forget about. I don't know. Again, it's not even like it's fully a criticism. It's just one of those things of like,
well, to
I
me,
don't know. It's like if I was writing it, it's like, damn, I would have done that.
right, but then I guess Aunt May probably just goes through this whole thing because of course Otto snags her up and is like being like just worrying about living through this.
Yeah.
And less about Peter. So Shry doesn't ultimately care after the fact that because she just walked out with her life, you know. But I love this whole sequence because of course, like even in the bank, like Spider-Man's firing blanks at Otto.
Yeah, and he just gets railed with
Right.
the money bag.
And that's what that's what I noticed within this movie, is, like specifically, like, and we're seeing it on the big screen, like it hits me a different way, where it's like Toby is the fucking man as Spider-Man, where he's dodging everything, he's hitting everyone, but then once he's starting to like not be able to like shoot his webs, he's like, oh well, that throws everything off. That's why he gets nailed by Otto in this moment. But like once he goes outside and gets Aunt May, Otto gets Aunt May, I feel like Peter just locks in, whereas like nothing else is on his mind.
No.
Where he doesn't have to worry. So that's why he's able to save her in this moment. Because clearly, like, he's not firing blanks. He is locked in. He's like,
yeah. Yeah, no, I like that too. And that was yeah, dude, what a like everything about like the punches and the hits. Like that's what really got, I mean, again, maybe it's the theater with just the bass and everything, but I remember also there's one like second of a moment that made me be like, damn, okay, this is very true. Is apparently in the novelization of the film, it talks about how like because Otto has no powers, and so like when Peter like punches him out of the bank and he like hits the cab, you know, like you even see him for a minute, like he like slumps over and then he like wakes back up because it says in the book that that level of a hit like really would just knock someone out if not kill them, but the arms like keep him conscious and keep fighting. And I was like, dude, that came into my mind in that moment of like, yeah, this guy is like, he's getting like brutalized by a superhuman, but again, the mechanical like AI is keeping him like conscious and fighting. Like that's brutal. That's very brutal. And I was like, but I love that. Like that type of detail is awesome.
Yeah.
And I could see it. Like it clicked for a moment. And just with the, again, it's because of the level of perhaps the word is like how tactile the sound and like you can feel the weight of all of the hits in this movie.
I just
like, oh, and especially when Peter's crashing down like the alleys and stuff. I'm like, dude, that if you're not a superhero, like, yeah, your body would be splat.
Oh yeah.
So I love that. I mean, especially with the fight, the bank fight, like the bank fight, the weight of everything.
I love the bank fight, man. But again, it's after this whole moment. Then we get to the gala, and then he decides, I'm done.
Yeah, yeah. And the great panel recreation of, or rather, it's a cover of Spider-Man No More.
And then even the Bugle's like newspaper says Spider-Man No More.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, bro, the references were off the charts. I loved that.
Yeah, I love that, and I love like the in his head conversation with Uncle Ben in this.
Oh, that was getting to me.
Like, can I not have what I want? I'm Spider-Man No More.
Yeah, and but it was just so great of like the fact that it's really a conversation like with his conscience that is represented as Ben, especially in that, and it's like going back to that moment where, you know, obviously the background is like pure white, but it's like, dude, like it's the fact that it's still that moment just before Ben drops him off that Peter like can't get out of his mind. And that is, to me, you know, that's the source of
everything,
the responsibility, like guilt cycle. Because I would even think, you know, especially if there's a villain that like would come to know not just who he is, but about like that event specifically. Like, oh man, it would just be such a good like level of manipulation because it's like, okay, you have your whole thing about power and responsibility, but it's like, but is it that or is it just guilt that you can't get over that keeps compelling you to like do this with your life? Like,
Sure.
could you even admit that? And obviously it's like, you know, Spider-Man would have to justify that within himself. But I really like that as, again, a villain, or again, even if it's just like in the background, which I think is what happens in this scenario, where it's more of like this question is motivating the script itself of like, is it, you know, is it a like deep guilt that he just feels like he has to do this and he finally lets go, which is what happens? Or is it really that responsibility? I mean, and then it comes back in the end where, you know, you know, the hero has the comeback and everything. But I just think it's a very, for obvious reasons, it's a very compelling character conflict.
I agree. Because I mean, ultimately, you're right. Like, does it all? Does everything he does after him allowing some guy to get past him and ends up killing Uncle Ben? Is that like the ultimate thing that drives him to continue to do this? And if this doesn't happen, would he be doing this?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Good point.
I mean, you could say the same for like Batman.
Right.
To
like,
where it's like
my responsibility to make sure some kid doesn't have to witness it.
Right, and that's what he says. It's like, because so no one has to, so there's not one more person that has this type of thing, and it's like, well, that doesn't work out.
Right.
But you know, anyway, it's like, it's just an interesting thing of like a survivor's guilt type of scenario.
But trying to do better, says
Peter. Yeah. Trying to do better. Oh, when I heard that line, I was like, yeah, that hits with No Way Home.
Oh yeah. No doubt. But anyway, but now he's no longer Spider-Man, so he's able to catch the play.
Yep.
He's, you know, just doing his everyday life, like with zero responsibility, just finally able to relax, take a breather. But then again, this dude's a hero. Because then there's the house burning on fire, and he goes to save this little girl. And no one else did that, but he did. He is, no matter what, to his core, a hero, Spider-Man or not. And as he comes out of that building, and they're like, yeah, some poor soul was trapped on whatever floor. And he's like,
oh yeah, the fourth floor, yeah.
And if I'm Spider-Man, I can save this life too. So of course he has to go back into thinking, shit, I need to do this. And of course,
simply because if nothing else, like no one else is like me.
Right. But then again, we get to the thing that he probably needed to do the most to get most of this weight off his shoulders is talk to Aunt May.
Yeah.
About how he is the man responsible for Uncle Ben's death. And that scene's just haunting, man, because I mean, Aunt May can't even say a word to him afterwards.
Oh man, I thought it was so, like, the ending to that scene is so well done on like on a cinematic level. It's like, you know, you could have had some kind of like type of like line where you're, you know, at the very end where you're like, oh wow, that's so like dramatic, but it makes it even more stark when it's just like, no, she just gets up and like walks upstairs like nothing, and we just linger in that wide shot as she like goes up. I was like, damn, this is so well done. And even with Peter, like for the longest time you're holding in that close-up of Toby as he like tells it.
Well, and that's a big part, because most of this movie he's just there. You know, he doesn't say that much. He has like one-liners, and he's just doing what he's told to do or what he has to do as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You know, but like this is like full on Peter letting everything out.
Yes,
which he has not been able to do for the longest time to anyone. Even though he's not saying he's Spider-Man, which would help with a lot.
But even then, it's still like a lie. Like he still is like lying.
Right, but I mean, at least
he makes up like a cover story.
Well, he's finally able to have some closure.
Yeah.
You know? And that's kind of all he needs to be back. you know. But then, he talks to MJ again at another point, and it's just like he's like, "Hey, I'm available now. Like,
Yeah.
truly, I will fully be available to you." And then even like having this whole conversation with her, she's like, "You can't just come back and like I'm engaged,
Right.
and say all this stuff." And like as she gets in the cab, she's like, "You are different. Like you're not the guy I was in love with either."
Yeah. Yeah, and that scene actually, it did make me feel for MJ a little more, where like from her perspective it is like, yeah, like how can you say this now?
Well, yeah, it's so true. It's like after I get engaged, like I've been waiting for you for so long. Like I'm not just here to wait for you to open up and like be ready.
Yeah, and it's like and after like a public engagement with like a prominent guy, now you say all of this, like what do you think I'm supposed to do? I mean, she still does it anyway, but like in that moment it's like, yeah, damn, like that's
But
not exactly considerate.
to be fair, he finally got to see her play, and that made her like lose it on the stage.
Yeah, no, that was such a good moment.
Oh, I love that moment because she's like, "Oh, he's here,"
And he's like it's so like, yeah, it's so like goofy.
Oh,
Like in the
because
beginning, like in 3, the beginning where he's like singing along, and he's like, that's my girlfriend," and the guy's just kind of like, all right,
because
like, kind of like the SpongeBob, like, congratulations.
because Peter's a fucking dork, man.
Yeah, it's perfect.
He's great.
It's exactly Peter.
Perfect. But yeah, but then I guess we get to this point where they're Peter's like, okay, I have to be back after having this eventual conversation with Aunt May, where it's her talking about there's a hero in all of us, talking to this little boy, being like, when's Spider-Man gonna be back? We need him, stuff like that. So he's like, this is them talking to Spider-Man in this moment of the hero will always come through in humanity because there's a hero in all of us. The one that makes us strong, makes us brave. And I love that whole dialogue right there. Where, again, I know we had this talk about it. I think the meat there is great. Like it's like you're eating a damn good sandwich right now. But maybe I'm craving a little bit more to put on the sandwich. Maybe it needs a sauce or something. And it's like,
or it's almost like you can't start with like the third course steak. Like that can't be the app. That doesn't make sense. Like, you know what I mean? Like you lead up to that. And that was I've thought about it just a little bit more of like, it's like we start at a good point, like it's building up, and then it just jumps into like, okay, hero, here's your motivational speech moment. And I was just like, Sam, you're a little better than that. Like, you're right though, because the point it ends at is great.
I love it was just that dialogue. But I agree, there should be maybe a hint more to get to that point of Aunt May saying this stuff.
Yeah, let me touch on and again using other scenes previously as like a point to kind of bounce between. Then we get like on a visual level, it's like the conversation's kind of jumping around from topics, and then it all just kind of leads to this. Right. Like, I mean, especially like you could have tied it into, okay, here's an example, taking the problem of the bank scene and tying that in with Uncle Ben. It's like you have Aunt May being like, look, like, she's like, yeah, like something about mentioning that you left me at the bank, or like you disappeared or something. And it's like, I don't know, because again, talking about heroism and like responsibility and like a duty or something, it's like, do you see the connection I'm getting at? Where she can connect that with how he feels the guilt for Uncle Ben, where I mean, maybe it's something like, well, if you felt that way about what happened to Ben, like during when that monster attacked the bank, you just ran away. Like, you don't have like, and maybe she could make that as a comment of like, I'm not accusing you. Like, I understand that probably like you have so much of this like guilt and anxiety that it made you freak out. Like, and then that could segue into, but you're better than that, because there is a hero in every person. It just is about like a moment and about the qualities. And that's where she's like I forgive you. Like I don't blame you. Despite what you said, I don't blame you for Uncle Ben. I don't blame you for running away from the bank, which again makes a more cohesive, like we're not just having scenes that don't address each other. And then it goes into again I just want you to know that like I've seen it when you're around other people. Like I know you're a good person, Peter. Like I know you have the capability to be a hero. And it makes more sense because now it doesn't feel as forced, because she's just talking about, she thinks she's just talking about in a general sense.
Right.
And like doing small acts of good and stuff. But in reality, Peter's like, all right, this is what Spider-Man needed to hear. That's what
Peter needed to hear.
Yeah, exactly. And so in reality, it's like both of them needed to hear that, but like, to become the integrated self.
But
and
I think it could have
that's what I would have rewritten.
I think it could have that connected part as well, that maybe this is like after, you maybe have a scene there after, like before he tells Aunt May about Uncle Ben. And after the bank scene, where like maybe they can talk about it then and then go into the Uncle Ben stuff. But then you get to this, and then whenever she's talking about this, like, how there's a hero in all of us, that maybe it could be a moment where she realizes who Peter is. Right?
Oh, wow.
Where it's like, I get it all. You saved my life in that moment. But she doesn't have to say anything, but just like in that back of her head, she knows who Peter is because she knows him better than anyone.
Yeah.
Because I would love that as an idea to maybe expand that whole relationship within this scene to finally give him that edge, to finally come back and be better than ever.
That would be really interesting because, like, yeah, the scene where he like finally swings down and like sets her on the ground, like there could have been a moment in her eyes where like when he says something to her, she's like, okay, I know that. That would be the one person's voice that she could pick out is her little Peter.
No, yeah, of course.
And then it's like, bro, right there.
Like,
and again, not that these are
yes goes off.
Not that these are even flaws. We're just spitballing.
Of course. Again, I love this movie like from start to finish. I love every scene. I think it doesn't stop. There's just stuff you can add to make it better.
Yeah, it would, and it's more of it's me like it's almost me just like gushing about. I mean, that's almost the good thing about the movie is like. You kind of keep everything as is, but there's moments like we're saying you can add like nuggets to that again, we want the movie to be longer. We were talking about how when it was over, it felt like we were only in there for like an hour and a half.
Right. Like I'm like, I feel like I could have a whole extra hour of this movie.
Yes.
No doubt.
And that's where again, my points come back to, like, especially with the auto scene stuff with Aunt May, like, oh man, I so wish this movie was like a 2.5-er.
Because I could have a lot more dialogue between Peter talking to Otto, to May, to J. Jonah, to MJ, to Harry. Like,
I would go so far as to argue that, yeah, you could literally include an additional scene with Peter and every major character, and it would still be perfect. Like, I actually really would like that because, again, not that it's not well done. But like you could just do even more context that, again, because of the scenario of the film itself, like there's so much fucking emotion.
Well, this movie's more about Peter than it is Spider-Man.
Correct.
And as great as the action sequences are, this is about diving into the psyche of Peter Parker.
Absolutely.
Spider-Man for a while and how his life is like just crumbling because of him taking on this responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah, where the first, it is, and again, we were talking about like the typical like trilogy cycle where this movie like fits into it perfectly of like that dark second chapter before you get the really epic third. Not that this isn't epic, but it's more intimate.
I like the term intimate more.
Because I would argue that it's the same with BVS, which is kind of the other like, to me, like the two like, well, and Dark Knight. Okay, out of three of those, like of these sagas, like trilogy arcs, like each middle chapter is the goated one.
Big man, to me, it's because they're more personable. This is where you
Yes.
truly get a deep dive into your hero. As
Yeah, you
well
have
as
to
other
bring them.
characters.
You have to bring them all the way down.
Yep. Because that's what we as humans like. We get that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Well,
what
it's.
makes
I
them
mean,
so compelling.
referencing George Lucas. I mean, with Star Wars, where again, Episode 2, Luke gets destroyed, and like everything
Right.
is on the bad. Like, I mean, BVS, Superman dies. Like the whole movie, he's blackpilled. Batman is literally going off the deep end. Like he's blackpilled. It's all about like the inner core of each character is always tested in the second film, and then of course the third epic film is like, well, now that they've had this like up and down, can they continue that upward trajectory
Can they
facing
rise?
like the right? Can they rise
Can they be
despite
better?
continual? Yeah,
Yeah. Can they be better than they were before this
right.
real event that took place before them? How do
Exactly.
they become the better man?
Yes.
And what's beautiful about this trilogy is actually it makes Peter the worst he's ever been.
Right.
Which I think is also very interesting. Where this one's just like he's just down in the dumps because his life is shit. The next movie is where it's like the symbiote suit is what like makes his ego and pride come out
Yes.
way more so, and he becomes a jerk off. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. He becomes a douche.
Exactly. So it's like that's how you take down your hero again, and that which is interesting for this third one because of course with Dark Knight Rises, that moment is of course Batman like getting his back broken.
Yeah.
Bane. But he's able to rise above that. Where Peter, he hurt his best friend. He hurts his girlfriend, and he somehow has to rise above that, and he does. But of course, we'll talk about that next week.
Right. Right. And then I mean, even with I mean, honestly, for over like the first half of, well, maybe up to the first half of the movie, you get I mean, you get Ben essentially like Batman. I mean, like his whole struggle is more of like he can't get the team to unite, and he's like, dude, like that. His test is also the test of faith in that, where it's like, okay, you came out of BVS like learning this value of like having faith in humanity and not being the cynic, like breaking down everything on the like Batman contingencies, everything's going to shit. Like, because Superman inspired him again, but now it's like, okay, can you continue that? And even if you can't get the team fully together, he's like, fuck it, we're going at Steppenwolf. I don't care what happens. Like, it's great. Again, all three of them, the best of the trilogies. Like, they all follow the rough kind of cyclical. Again, Joseph Campbell, like up and down,
Right.
and a circle type of thing. I mean, I love talking about like, and I'm happy that we get to have these conversations. Like that's what really, especially coming from both of us really coming from the writer perspective. I mean, we've even put this in our own show. Like the arc of the show is like that.
Yeah.
Where again they get to the ultimate, I guess it should be inverted, but they get to the ultimate like dark moment of everything seems lost. You have the schism happening.
Well, there's always going to be a worrisome thing that happened that you have to rise above.
Right. And then I would say the biggest point, again, is like they go all the way down. And I would say the rock bottom is like with the whole unity situation. And then we have to get them to starting from literally rock bottom, like go all the way back up. And it's like,
right.
It's just classic storytelling.
Indeed.
Which is, I think if I might add, the newer Spider-Man trilogy doesn't accomplish as well at all.
I agree. Until No Way Home. Otherwise, I don't think it exists.
No. But
he needs two other Peter Parkers to bring him back.
Right. And then, of course, Andrew didn't get to have it. So.
Which is tragic.
It is a tragedy. But, can't hold it against him.
No, it's not his fault.
No.
Anyway, so now I guess we get to the point of Peter's back. Where he tries to be back when he's jumping off the building and he's like, I'm back, and he just plummets down and he hurts his back pretty good. But then he needs to finally have this conversation with MJ to finally like be back, where it's where he's truly telling her how he feels, and she's like she shows up to be like, I want to know. I need to know for my own well-being. And then they get rudely interrupted by Otto. And then
But even that, I feel like in that scene though, he's like, I don't know. He's like Peter's still like coping though, because he's lying, because he's like, yeah, no, I don't love you. When she like asks him, but he's making, he's trying to make that decision of like, look, I need to let it go.
Just let everything go.
Yes, exactly. But then,
yeah, then Otto comes in and takes her, and he's like, you can't take her. You can't hurt her. And now we get this ultimate, the hero's back moment.
He's like, like I loved that shot, dude.
Oh, great shot. And then
that was also very Evil Dead. That shot with like all the wood like blowing out of the way.
I love that. Yeah,
it was brilliant, man.
And then I just loved like just him running outside to seeing where Otto's running off to, and then his vision's blurry, and he takes off the glass. And it's like, oh yeah, and then he just drops the glasses, and they're broken. It's like, I don't need them anymore.
So good, and what a good shot! Just a classic, like wide angle.
Sam cooked.
Sam and dude, Bill Pope. Sam and Bill Pope went hard.
Yeah. But then
let me just comment before I just like on the whole talking about the cinematographer. To this day, man, the best shot that leads into the train is when Spider-Man's swinging and going to face Ock finally, and we like zoom down like the long like break in all of the skyscrapers, and then it pulls out of the lens of Doc Ock's eye. Beautiful. Like as like the shot is just the reflection of him staring at the city, and then I'm like, dude, that is unreal. What a sick shot. That one and the shot of like Peter in the right of the frame and Aunt May like walks up the stairs in the left side. Those two are my favorite shots, and they're completely different. Like one's the dynamic like CGI, like it's a sick like Spider-Man shot, and the other one's just a very simple but very mature, like dramatic shot. And I'm like, oh, dude, it's so well done. Anyway.
But then we get to, frankly, one of the best action scenes and scenes in general of any superhero movie, where we get the whole train sequence, where you have this rematch between Spider-Man and Doc Ock. And, of course, Spider-Man's been gone for a while. This is him coming back. And what's great about it is like, yeah, the action itself is cool. The swinging's cool. But I love when it gets to the point when Doc Ock leaves the most, where it's like, all right, this train is going to crash and it's going to kill people. But I also love, I guess, technically before Otto leaves, how he's just throwing people out of the train, and Spider-Man's just like spinning out webs to catch them. Love that.
Felt very much like the game.
Right. And then again, now Peter has to understand how to stop this train that's going at an unbelievable speed and save all these lives. And so it's one man putting himself between these people and death.
Yeah,
a good amount of them. And then it's a tall task, because this train's moving at God knows how fast, like what speed. And I just love the second he goes down, like his mask is off at this point because it got sparks in it or whatever, so he couldn't see. So this is full on maskless Spider-Man. This is Peter Parker saving these lives. The hero that Peter is, not Spider-Man, Peter Parker. Like he happens to be Spider-Man. There is the man behind this mask. And that's why I think it's so brilliant that he doesn't have the mask in the scene, because he easily could have just been Spider-Man, stopped this train. It would have been a cool sequence. But the fact that he stops this train finally, he nearly passes out from like holding it back. And then the people save him from falling down. And
yeah, dude.
And then they just pull it, like put him through, and they like give him some space so you can give him some air.
We always talk about it, but it's because it literally is the most significant moment in all of history. But this scene also mirrors the crucifixion.
Indeed.
Where he's outstretched like this. He has the rip in the side, like the stab wound of the spear. It's blue and red, like the blood in the water. that comes out of his side.
Right.
And the people like taking him down from the cross, like tenderly, like holding his body. Like it's, bro,
It's all
anytime you give me the biblical reference, it always hits. But again, it's because what is the archetype of the hero?
There's a hero in all of us, though. I will
Christ,
say.
the sacrificing of your life for another. That is
Right.
the definition of love.
That's the true hero.
That's the true hero. Serious. It's all right there in front of you.
Right.
I thought that was so brilliant.
It's
That
great.
again, just the whole set piece just leads into this imagery of Peter.
Right.
Like giving up his life, like he's fully prepared in that moment.
And then again, it goes also just back to the conversation he just had with Aunt May.
Yeah, right.
There's the hero in all of us. And these people in this moment are like, they are saving their hero, in turn making them heroes. And then the second he wakes up and he realizes his mask isn't on, he's freaking out a little bit. And everyone's just like, we're cool, man.
Yeah.
Don't worry about us.
Yeah, and it's good that he's of all places, he's in New York, because it's like, damn, okay. Only like a dozen out of 5 million people have seen my face. So thank God.
Oh, yeah.
But it's brilliant. Oh, and you know, shout out to Joey Diaz.
Of course, yes. It's always good to see Joey.
Oh, and I also saw the guy that's the voice of I always forget his name, but the guy that's the voice of Hal Jordan in Justice League.
Really?
He's at the front of the train. You can see him clear as day.
Damn, okay.
What the hell is his name? I'm gonna look it up as you
Fair enough.
talk.
I guess before Peter even wakes up, I just love the dialogue between these passengers on this train, like just being like, he's just a kid, no older than my son. And it's just like this guy's been putting the city on his back. This kid, even this guy's still trying to make his way through school.
Seriously,
it's just like how do you get to this point in life, like become like getting to adulthood and still have to save these countless lives along the way?
Yeah,
it's quite the cross to bear that Peter has.
Literally, yeah. There's something about like every time, dude, of like, oh man, it does get me like choked up when I'm watching it. Of just like the normal people being like, fuck you, Doc Ock. Like we're with Spidey, bro. Like you're a piece of shit. Fuck you.
Well, right. Like, well, when
we're fucking New Yorkers, man.
Right. Well, this whole scene is definitely mirrored by the scene in the first movie where like the guys are throwing trash at Green Goblin when he's So it's like New York has Spidey's back for the most part, even though of course J. Jonah keeps trying to have the city hate him. But it took until him being gone for a while for the city to be like, yeah, we need this guy.
Yeah.
He helps us out quite a bit.
Yeah. Oh, and I found it, bro. I forgot his name. Phil Lamar. This guy.
Awesome.
Let's also not forget he is Marvin in Pulp Fiction.
True.
That gets his head blown off.
Yeah. Oh shit. Wow, I didn't even realize he was in Spidey 2 though. That's cool.
Shit. Shot Marvin in the face. Anyway, yeah, dude, I when I saw him, I was like, oh.
But again, I just love the moment of like Doc Ock finally getting on board, and like there's the people standing in front of Peter to like be like, do not get to him.
And he's like, very well.
Yeah, very well. I mean, it's just obviously it's Doc Ock putting his dick on the table more or less, but still, it's like you gotta love that moment of just the people wanting to stand for Spider-Man, to give their lives even for their hero, the one who just saved their lives. And that's great. Yeah. That's the men are still good.
Yes. Yes. 100%. 100%.
And that has to give Peter so much faith also, again, because like what he's constantly reading is saying how like Spider-Man's a menace. You turn the whole city against him.
Yeah, it's fake. It's the fake news of J. Jonah Jameson.
The fake news.
The lying press, like J. Jonah Jameson. Disgraceful.
Right.
Disgraceful reporting.
But then, I guess, we just get to the final sequence. Well, shit, there's a big moment there. But Doc Ock knocks out Spider-Man and then delivers him to Harry.
In exchange for the tritium.
Tritium.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, he has MJ just locked up on this pier while he's doing his science experiment. While in this moment, Harry's whole world is about to be turned upside down, where he finally gets to know who Spider-Man is, and he wants to look at his face before he kills him.
Even though it's like, what's a knife gonna do?
Sure. But the second he sees Peter, knife dropped.
Yeah.
And they're like, so what is Harry thinking? It's like, this is my best friend, my brother, who I've gotten out of so many Harry situations, but same with him. But this man killed my father.
Right.
Everything that's going through Harry's head is just insane, where he's even speechless at the fact.
Yeah, seriously, he can say nothing. And that, I mean, obviously, because it's, supernatural type of stuff, but like, I could not fathom that type of like revelation.
Right. But then like, even Harry goes, you killed my father. And then Peter's just like, he takes a moment and he's like, basically there's bigger fish to fry right now. Okay. We can handle this later, but you have to let me know where Octavius is.
Yeah, because it's not only about the mutual Mary Jane thing, but he's like, dude, like he could turn, he could like blow up like a significant portion of the city just because he like doesn't know what he's doing.
Right. And then of course this whole conflict is going to be put on hold until Spider-Man 3.
Right.
But we get these awesome inklings of what's to come for Spider-Man 3 within this movie, like kind of giving us like a post-credit scene that's within.
That's exactly what it was, dude.
Yeah, it's just like it's clearly something they could have thrown like after the credits, but they still throw it towards the end of the movie where it's like Harry's talking to Norman through the mirror. He breaks through the glass, and then there's this whole goblin cave of some sort with the glider, the mask, the pumpkins.
Yep.
And it's just like, oh shit, I guess Harry the Green Goblin will be back next movie. It's basically what that's implying. And of course, we have this little moment of this before we jump to the absolute end, because I want to talk about, of course, the final conflict between Ock and Peter. But at the wedding for MJ and J. Jonah's son, Harry's wearing a green bow tie, which I love.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant.
It's perfect. It's incredible. Like I noticed that like a couple rewatches ago, but I'm just like, again, seeing it on the big screen, I'm like, oh yeah, that's clearly a dark green tie. It's just the Green Goblin's here.
He's here, bro. And I love too. Speaking of the marriage scene, like as she's running, you see the one guy like looking at her that was meant to be a Punisher reference.
Oh, really?
Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, because the guy that like as she's running with like the fountain, there's like a guy in all black that like turns and like looks at her, and it's like very clearly in the shot. And that guy is the actor Thomas Jane, who played Punisher in one of the movies. That was his stunt double, because they meant it to be like the movies were gonna eventually have like references to the other characters.
Whoa.
So, fun fact.
That is a fun fact. I never knew that. That's cool.
She literally runs past Frank Castle.
Yeah, I'll look into that next time I rewatch for sure.
Dude, it's so cool to think about. And in the book of this film, guess who is in attendance at the thing is Hank Pym.
At the wedding?
At the original thing of the showcase of the Tritium.
Oh, really?
Dude, Hank Pym is there.
Oh, that's cool. Oh.
Not in the movie, but it's in the book.
Yeah, wow.
So you have Ant-Man and Punisher. And Doctor Strange is referenced.
Yeah, in this movie. Yeah.
Oh, but it's taken.
Doctor Strange, that's good. But it's taken. It's great.
I mean, come on. It's so fucking good.
But yeah, and then we get to the ending of the movie where Peter is able to turn Otto, which is a great scene. Like, be like, you told me that intelligence is a privilege, and that we are to use it for the betterment of mankind. And then, of course, that speaks to Otto to be able to hold back the claws and you can see their lights turn from red to white again.
Yeah.
As he's able to take down the machine. Which is a great moment where, like, Otto, he sacrifices himself to save New York from himself. So I love that. But of course, during this whole thing, we get that MJ is seeing Peter as Spider-Man.
And it all kind of clicks.
Everything clicks together. Man,
which is why I think there is a logical thing of like, okay, yeah, I think if she had that big of a revelation, like, yeah, the running away from the wedding like makes sense.
Of course. Because, I mean, they have this talk on this big web for a little bit, and he's like, this is why I can't be with you. My enemies will hurt you, which has happened twice now. And she's just like accepting that in that moment, at least, to be like, all right, I get it now. I understand why you've always been so, like, how have you avoided me this whole time? But then, of course, then we get to the wedding day where she is running to Peter's apartment, and she arrives in this full-on wedding dress, and she's like, I am 100% in with this.
Yeah.
And you have to accept that. This is me allowing it.
Right.
Where, like,
in a way, like, yeah, you don't have to feel the guilt.
Like, this is acceptance here. And then so Peter's finally able to let go a little bit, and they have this very passionate makeout sesh. And then
what is it? MTV Movie Awards Best Kiss winner, Tobey Maguire.
Tobey Maguire, yes. And then, of course, here's the siren, and then you get the beautiful "Go Get 'Em, Tiger," which always gives me
finally.
The ending of this movie kills me, man. Like, just hearing that, and then him putting on the suit, and then you get that final swing, and then it's epic, and then it goes back to MJ with like this look.
That was interesting. I actually didn't remember that was the final shot.
The final shot is MJ, and it's just like, all right, I'm in this life now.
Yeah.
Who knows where it goes? And we will find out next week. Because we see Spider-Man 3 next week. Well, of course, we've seen it. We could talk about it. But I want to save it for the dedicated video that would be Spider-Man 3. But I guess, to say the least, it's been a great stream.
Yeah, man. I was a lot of the stuff I'm glad we went deeper on like the writing element, because that's, I mean, for me, that's always my favorite stuff.
That's the most powerful thing of this film. I mean, the true like human to human interaction, like the dialogue from it all, is the beauty of this. Yes, the action sequences are top notch. The acting is incredible, but like just Peter talking to Aunt May talking to Peter, MJ letting it all out on Peter, Harry, like everything to go on with Harry, what's going through his mind. It's all brilliant.
Yeah, it is.
And then Doc Ock, I mean, what a character.
Yeah, one of the best comic book villains easily. I mean, and in the true meaning of that word too, like in the comics, he's fucking awesome. Like the Superior Spider-Man arc is nuts. Right. Like all of that is so cool. So, and it's funny, like they kind of were like, yeah, are we going to get a better Doc Ock the second time around? Probably not.
Probably not.
Let's get him back. Come on.
Get him back, and we got him back.
It's great. It's great. Alfred Molina kills it.
Well, thanks for coming on, Brad. This has been great. And of course, it's great to be able to talk about one of our favorite superhero movies, one of my personal favorite movies of all time. I am truly blessed and thankful for the fact that we were able to see this and here together.
Truly, man.
Yeah, it's one of the best, that deep dive into Spider-Man, Peter Parker. But yeah. I was gonna say,
I mean, pretty much, yeah. The next thing is just our breakdown of the third one. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, 3 next week. That's the thing to look out for, guys. So I'd say roughly around the same time next Tuesday, because of course I will be seeing Spider-Man 3 again in the theater. So next Tuesday around the same time, me and Brad will talk about arguably one of the most overhated superhero films.
Without question.
And it's I don't think it's justifiable to really shit on this movie at times, sure. But this movie, Spider-Man 3, is still an excellent piece to this trilogy.
Yeah, I still remember vividly seeing it in theaters.
Right.
I loved it.
All right, guys, make sure to tune in next week.
Oh, we got I remember the apes review coming up. I would say, what is that, 2 weeks away?
Yeah, apes is soon. So we will definitely discuss Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Looking forward to that.
But yeah, guys, make sure to like and subscribe. Leave your comments down below. Share with your friends if they love Spider-Man and comic books as a whole. We will catch y'all very soon. Bye bye.
Spooky, thanks for having me on again. I'm always super pleased to be here. Can't wait to come back.
Always, brother. All right, until next week. Peace out.
Peace out, y'all.